by the end of this, we are going to be pros at this. So Kirsten is with us. We're so excited to have you. And please share with us your thoughts about the holidays and recovery. And
yeah, so actually what just happened is like an example of the holidays, right? You have a plan and you think things are going to go a certain way and you try to coordinate everything so that it works perfectly, whether it's the party or the event or the holiday itself or the meal, and just nothing goes the way you planned. And so one of the things it's so true. I mean, it's so true. And so we always have to, when the holiday season comes around, expect the unexpected. It's funny because growing up, I always loved the holiday season. I loved Thanksgiving. I loved putting up the Christmas decorations, and I loved every concert that you go to in December, prepping for the holidays and buying gifts. And I mean, who doesn't love getting gifts? All of the parties and everything. But each year that passes, and I think every year that you grow as a person and life brings new challenges, whether it's an eating disorder, the recovery process, deaths in the family, unfulfilled expectations and hopes for certain family members, dysfunction that exists in every family, Christian, non-Christian, single, divorced, married, whatever. There's dysfunction in every family. There is so much, so many unmet expectations and unfulfilled desires that often when we look back at our nostalgic and very happy memories, sometimes of the holidays from when we were children, and we compare what the holidays look like now when we're adults, it can produce feelings of despair and hopelessness. And then you put recovery from an eating disorder into all of that mixed bag, and it makes it even harder. And one of the things, there's a couple things that I wanted to address. The first is making the holiday season about the things that are small and simple, because there's such a temptation with the materialism and the decorations and Santa Claus and just the expectation for all this hope and joy and amazingness and all of that. It can get so easy to get all wrapped up in that. And like we've talked about in identity before on our Facebook Lives, you can put all your hope and anticipation in that fulfilling you, but when it doesn't, or it leaves you feeling empty, you can feel a sense of loss and grief. And so how can we be intentional as we approach, right? It's almost Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is this week. How can we instead of letting our emotions get the better of us and just run away with us and just get swept up into all the anticipation of the season, how can we focus on the things that are simple and small, the small joys, right? I'm going to be working with my mom tomorrow and creating some of the dishes for the Thanksgiving party that we're going to with a family on Thursday. At least I hope I can help, because I love to cook, but I'm not like super great at some things. So I hope I can be of some help. But that's going to be something sweet and simple and joyful with my mom. Just time, with us together, prepping and getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday. I have my dog with me for the first time here in Michigan for Thanksgiving, and that's going to be her first Thanksgiving with the family. That's simple and a small joy. How can I focus on the great conversations that I have, maybe one-on-one with some people that I haven't caught up with in a long time in my family? How can I focus on that and making that special rather than thinking of the whole day, right? Or the whole season or the whole gift giving process? I think you get very, very easy to get overwhelmed. And so sometimes focusing on the things that are simple and small are a way to be really intentional about making sure that we don't get so overwhelmed by the season. The second thing in regard to like recovery specifically, this is something that when I was in the early stages of my recovery and very, very nervous and anxious about the approaching holiday season, because you're going with, if you're just, started recovery, or you just got back from treatment or something like that, and you're going to face a whole family or a whole room full of people who have no idea about the complicated nature of eating disorders. They have no idea what to say. They feel super awkward. They're looking at you and trying to support you, or maybe they're just super, super judgmental and they're not evolved at all in that way, right? And they're going to say like the most horrible things, like pat their belly and go, "Oh, I wish I had an eating disorder." Or, seriously, I definitely had people say this to me before, or they look at, every plate that you're eating and say, "Oh, good job." If you eat a slice of pumpkin, you're like, Oh my gosh. It's so frustrating, right? Or the dreaded, you look so healthy. And you're like, you know what? You have no idea. It's just, it's so frustrating, right? Let's just all agree that it's so hard, and that used to really, really bother me. And so I would talk a long time with my therapist about how to deal with some of that. And it does get frustrating, and you have to just acknowledge that. But when it's being accepting of where other people are at, they don't know, they have no clue. And so just acknowledge that. Yes, they have no clue, right? But one thing that my therapist said to me that was really, really helpful, she said, focus on the relationships, not the food. Because I would get so concerned about what other people thought about the food I was eating and what food I had to eat in order to prove that I was recovered. And, just get so anxious and in my head about doing recovery right as a performance. And it's not a performance. So how do I focus on the relationships instead of the food? So if you're going through the buffet line or whatever, and you're like, okay, how much do I got to scoop on this and all that, all that mental gymnastics that we do, focus on the person you're talking to as you go through the line. Actually focus on the conversation, right? When you're sitting down to a meal across from someone, turn this thinker off, which is so hard, but turn the internal commentator off. And if you're in recovery, you're learning the process of doing that, and actually focus on the conversation that you're having with the person. Focus on deepening that relationship. Focus on the people, not on the food. And then even when they say something that's triggering or maybe not very smart, focus on the relationship, continuing to reorient yourself throughout the day. And then after the day is over, or after you leave that family meal, or after you leave that party, give yourself time to rest and recover from the day, because it is so exhausting. It can be so incredibly exhausting. Not only fighting the eating disorder voice and trying to stay really good you're not good in your recovery. It's a horrible way of saying it, but staying healthy, right? And respectful of yourself. And then also it can just be exhausting being around people that, some people maybe and some people maybe you don't, all day long. It can be really exhausting. So make sure you give some, get some good self-care time in after some of those very, very stressful events. So keeping the focus on things simple, small and simple, focusing on the relationships, not the food. And then the last thing that I would say is lower your expectations. The holiday is just another season of the year, just like spring, just like summer vacation, just like spring break, just like Halloween. It's going to come around again next year. I promise. And so just trying to be really present. And I know that we talked about naming this Facebook Live emotional presence during the holidays, and be thankful for every single moment, but don't build up Christmas or the holiday season to be more than it's meant to be. Take each day at a time, take 10 minutes at a time if you have to, and appreciate every single day as it comes and the gifts you have for that day. And don't let the expectation that Christmas is going to fulfill you take over your life, because it doesn't ultimately fulfill and it doesn't bring you ultimate joy. It can bring us lots of joy, but it's not the be all end all. And we all know that January comes, which is everyone's favorite month. And I'm totally joking, because it's but January is coming, friends. So let's try to avoid that cliff edge, right? Happy Christmas, and then right.
That is
Pretend like January is already here. I mean, maybe I'm super cynical and super negative, but that's been a major coping strategy for me. Enjoy every day as it comes and pretend like it's already January, because then once January gets here, you're like, we're that much closer to February because it's January for 2 months already. But I just think, just assessing our expectations, I think, of the holiday and of other people during the holiday season is really important as well.
really valuable.
Some of my thoughts on the holiday season. Yeah, thank you.
So we had a question as you were talking from someone, and it was, what do you say to somebody that is in recovery from an eating disorder as a family member at holiday gatherings, or what, are there any fast rules?
Well, obviously, I think it depends on your relationship with that person, right? If you're really close and you've been walking with them and you've heard some of their story already, it's totally appropriate to say, hey, how are you doing? Or how are things going? Just very generally. That's kind of like your volley, your serve, to see if they're going to hit back, right? Just keeping it real broad and general. And if they keep things close to the vest and they say, yeah, I'm doing pretty well, or like, I'm good, I probably wouldn't go any further. But if they start to open up a little bit more, that's probably your cue that it's okay to go a little bit further. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. You know, how can I help you? How can I pray for you? Ask how you can help or serve them in some way. So that would be the first thing. Keep it as general as possible. And I know that often we're well-intentioned when you say, you look great, or you look so healthy, or those kinds of things, because we want to be encouraging. The thing is you don't know where that person is at. You could think they look healthy and look happy, and they're really struggling. So if you're someone who has not necessarily been walking with them through that process and you don't have a super close relationship with them, I wouldn't bring it up. I wouldn't mention it. I wouldn't try to be encouraging, because you can maybe make things worse. Ask them about other things. Things completely unrelated to their eating disorder, right? Ask them about school, ask them about work, ask them about a relationship, talk a little bit about what's going on with you. Making the conversation about things other than that, I wouldn't even go there, because it can just lead to, there's a whole lot of landmines there that you can potentially step on that you don't want to get into. So keeping the conversation general and away from the eating disorder and away from food is probably the very best bet. I know that you can maybe want to try to be encouraging, but it's probably better to just stay away from the subject altogether, because really the time is about family and connecting. It's not about the food.
Yeah, agreed. So another question is about body image at these events and what to say to yourself.
Yeah. First of all, number one rule I find when I go to holiday parties, wear comfortable clothes. Wear clothes you feel confident in and good in. Do not dress to impress necessarily, like wear the tightest, skimpiest little dress, or, don't make yourself uncomfortable. And the reason I say that is because the clothes that we wear have a real effect on how we feel about our bodies. So don't pressure yourself to look super, super fabulous and beautiful, or get into this great pair of pants, or wear this skimpy little dress. Like, don't put that extra pressure on yourself. Wear something that makes you feel comfortable, because in those very stressful environments, you're going to need to feel as comfortable in your body as you possibly can. So wear things that make you feel comfortable and make you feel relaxed. That's a number one rule that I have. Always just wear like a sweater, and not like sweatpants, but just comfortable. I mean, I wish sometimes I do. If I'm hanging out with my family, yeah, I totally sweatpants all the way. Just looser fitting clothing, because then you just don't feel so, oftentimes we're very self-conscious, obviously, when you're in recovery about your body and the way that your body looks in clothes. That's a very practical element. So saying number one thing is wear clothes that just make you feel comfortable and make you feel comfortable in your own skin. The second thing is really the thought about focusing on the relationships, not the food, also applies to your body. Focus on the relationships, not on your body. Right? And when you're preparing to go out, or you're in the car on the way, or, you're leading up to a Thanksgiving meal or kind of thing, start focusing on that already. Practice makes permanent, right? And so if we start to practice thinking about that in our everyday life, when it comes time for Christmas dinner, or it comes time for Thanksgiving dinner, or that Christmas party you've been looking forward to, your brain has already practiced thinking the right way, that you're focusing on the people that are there, not about, oh, how do I look in this? Or how do I feel about my body, or my stomach, or my butt, or whatever, whatever problem area you're focused on that day. You're already primed to be focusing on the people rather than on your body. And the last thing that I would just mention about body image going into the holidays is you're going to hear a ton of comments, body shaming comments from people about their own bodies during the holiday season. It's all over the place, and I don't understand it. It's like we're going into a Thanksgiving dinner where we're meant to be thankful and grateful for abundance and the beauty of life and the gifts we've been given and the air that we breathe, things as simple as that, and the reason that we celebrate with a feast, with a meal, is because we're saying, we're celebrating. We have this beautiful, whatever it is, a turkey or a ham or a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner. You're taking part in this communal meal to celebrate your thanks and your gratitude. And then immediately after, people are patting their stomach, oh, I need to run 6 miles tomorrow. And, oh, it's so good, but I feel so fat, or whatever. People say all this stuff. It's like, you're supposed to be thankful. You're supposed to be accepting this as a gift and a celebration. It's so antithetical to the whole spirit of the holiday. Same with Christmas. People are already thinking about when they're going to start their January 1st diet, and they're already talking about it. And it's just, it's so destructive to the spirit of Thanksgiving and the peace of the holiday. So be prepared for other people to make those body shaming comments about themselves. And one, when you hear it, don't apply it to yourself, meaning don't let yourself think, oh my gosh, well, that person ate one piece of pie and they're saying that they need to go burn 600 calories tomorrow and I ate two. What does that mean about me? Don't let yourself go there, number one. Also says, do not let yourself go there. It's not good. And the other thing is be ready with an encouraging word. If you're in a healthy place in your recovery and you hear that kind of stuff, be like, oh my goodness, no, enjoy yourself. We should be so grateful for this food and so grateful for our time together. You can very, very positively redirect the conversation when you hear those kinds of comments. So if you see those kind of opportunities, I would just take them, because you're not only speaking a truth to yourself when you verbalize it, but you're also probably giving a lot of encouragement to people around you who need it.
Well said. So and one last question that we have is, what about someone who is experiencing relapse and feeling ashamed? How do you regroup and go to these events?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, because there's a lot of relapse that does occur during the holiday. So first of all, if it happens, it happens. Mm-hmm. It happens. It happens to everyone who is in recovery, doesn't it? I know. It does. She's agreeing. It does happen. And that's why the holidays can be really, really painful and hard for a lot of people. So first of all, don't be so hard on yourself. Second of all, you don't have to go to everything. You don't. If it's too stressful, if it's too hard, set a boundary. If it feels better for you to stay home and take care of yourself and take a warm bath and sit by the fireplace and read a book, do it. You have permission. You don't have to go to everything. You don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to say yes and agree to bring a dozen cookies and provide gifts for everyone and, be there 3 hours early to help set up. You don't have to. You do not. There's no rule that says you have to, especially if you're going through a really difficult period. So just monitor your commitments and set boundaries if you need to, and put yourself first and your recovery first. And then the last thing I would say is set up a support system. If you are going into relapse or you feel yourself going in that direction, reach out to a therapist, talk to a couple people in your life who are close with you and are maybe serve as an accountability partner for you in your life, and tell them, hey, this is what I'm going through and I really need your support right now. I don't need you to be a food police, but I need you to pray for me. I need you to be there by my side. I need to be able to call you if I need to talk about something, but set up your support system. Don't do it alone, and don't feel ashamed, because relapse is a part of recovery. It just is. And so if you reach out to people who you truly trust and know that they love you and will unconditionally accept you and love you no matter what, even if you relapse, having those people in that unconditional love by your side during the holiday season is what's going to enable you to be able to survive and get back up on 2 feet. Because it definitely is a part of the process. So accept that it can be a part of the process, and don't be ashamed. The second thing is put up boundaries. And you can say no and not go to things. Then the third is assemble your support team so that they can be around you to support yourself when maybe you can't, or support you when maybe you don't feel like you can support yourself.
Excellent points. I so wish that Facebook had been around back in the day, and you would have been talking to me then, because I could have used this.
Me too. 1,000%. 1,000%. And that's why I try to pass along the little nuggets of wisdom that I've gotten along the way that I've learned personally. And then also, things that I've worked with my therapist back then and therapists since, so it's any wisdom that we have, we always try to pass along to others. Right. And I hope that anyone who's watching and is listening right now, that you can find some joy in the holiday season, but also just presence, a real presence, being present in every single moment, and being thankful, and not getting too caught up in this season, but just speaking love to yourself throughout it. Because the more that you're able to do that, the more you're able to enjoy every day. And it doesn't matter if it's a holiday or not, you're able to honor yourself and others. And that is what true recovery and lasting freedom is really all about.
Thank you, Kirsten Haglund.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacqueline, so much. And thanks to everyone, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving, a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's if you celebrate, or whatever you may celebrate. Have a very, very happy one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.